as my abilities as an art dealer have changed and grown, and as I've been better able to, to judge the validity and the integrity and the content of works of art. Well, I think that that it takes looking at works of art all day long, every day, to be able to eventually say that you can come to see what the artists may have intended when they were creating it. So, I mean, that's something that didn't come to me right away. In the first 5 or 6 years that I was an art dealer, I was basically just a glorified gopher. I asked a lot of questions. I listened a lot to artists and to the other dealers in our business. And it was at least 5 or 6 years before I felt I was making any significant contribution to the business. We try to deal in works of art that we would be just as happy to have in 5 or 10 or 20 years as we are now, and that's a rigorous criteria. It means you don't buy or you don't take in on consignment just anything because it offers you an opportunity. You take it because you will you feel confident that you won't have to say to the person who owns that work in 20 years, no, I'm no longer interested in that work. I think some of the artists on this call might not think that it's in their best interest for me to buy and sell their work in the secondary market, and I'm sympathetic to that point of view also, because it's directly competing with works that we might be selling to them instead. So I think that there are various points of view about that. We deal in the secondary market not so much because we feel a responsibility to the collectors that buy works from us, but because it's a great opportunity for us to profit. And where we can profit and be a healthy business, we can afford to invest in other things, like in the careers of younger artists. But I think our gallery is more collector-centric than it is artist-centric. Our central focus is helping to build great collections. I find it very difficult to know an artist and to fully understand the integrity that they approach their work from when they're in their 20s or 30s. Not because there aren't many artists who have clearly demonstrated it. It's just my own criteria, I guess. I think the youngest artist that we've worked with was 28 or 29 when we took them on. But for me, the most satisfying aspects of works of art have to do with what lies beneath the surface. The ideas that the artist wanted to express, or the things that the artist was thinking about while they were doing the work. I need, for work to really be satisfying for me to own and to live with, it has to be successful on a conceptual level and on a visual level. Of whom are not living, that we don't really have to expand our roster of artists. We do it mainly to remain vibrant, and to be able to experience what it means to develop younger careers. We don't really do it for commercial purposes. For commercial purposes, the core of our financial business is buying and selling works of art by very established artists from all across the last century. And to some degree, we also deal in the secondary market for major contemporary artists whose works we don't represent, but who many of our collectors have an interest in. Here's my advice to you. I think that any artist who believes in themselves deserves to have a gallery who believes in them on the same level. What you want is you want a gallerist who lives and eats and breathes your work, who wakes up in the morning and thinks about what they're going to do for you today. And very often, for an artist who doesn't have a long resume, that's going to be a gallery who also doesn't have a long resume. Not all the time, but very often. And so I don't think you should overlook dealers who are relatively young as well, because they're the ones who are quite likely to value you as as a partner much more than a dealer such as me, who has, frankly, a lot of choices and who wakes up every day hardly knowing which way to turn. It'd be very easy for an artist to get lost in that crowd. And so that's my main advice: is to look seriously at dealers who can do the most, who will work the hardest for you. I guess I don't see any reason why there isn't a long-term continuing role for the kind of partnership that exists between a good dealer and a good artist. You know, you don't want to be a recluse necessarily in this world, but you also don't want to spend your time being a promoter. So I think that there will always be a need for a mechanism to convey that work to the public. There will always be a need for people to be advocates for you. It's a romantic field that we work in, and I think there will always be romantic people on both sides of the aisle involved in it, dealers and collectors and artists. Most of the artists we work with also work with other galleries somewhere in the world. And that's because they've been around a while and they've established those kind of relationships. But as I said, most of the artists we work with are co-represented by a few other galleries. And that, creates significant opportunities for conflict of interest. Uh, for instance, I mean, I've seen plenty of cases where artists, not really intentionally, but because they dislike conflict and don't know how to say no, will promise the same thing to two different dealers, and obviously not be able to deliver. That's something that an artist should avoid. I think you should try to have clear lines between your relationships with different dealers.